guys, and welcome to another video update. This week was International Week and it was very Tokyo Disney heavy thanks to a lot of the great material that I got from Carrie Hayward. But I tried to squeeze some of the other countries in there. The problem is that, especially with Disneyland Paris, there just isn't nearly as much on the internet as you'd think there would be, whereas there's tons of stuff about Tokyo Disney, and there was actually quite a bit of stuff about Hong Kong Disneyland, although some of that stuff sort of got lost in translation, so I didn't share all of it. I will be sharing more international stuff in the future. I think I'm just going to start squishing it in with everything else because there's no reason to keep all that stuff to just 1 week and then focus and just do that for days on end. Because I feel like the problem is that these Tokyo Disney weddings and the Hong Kong Disneyland weddings, a lot of them sort of look the same because they're so different than the weddings at Walt Disney World, which is mostly what I've been showcasing. I think that since a lot of us have seen so many Walt Disney World weddings, we can pick out the little minute details and think, oh, this person had these colors and this person used this particular centerpiece, whereas with some of the international weddings, because it's all sort of foreign, in a weird way it kind of blends together. So I am going to try to space those out, but still share them more often than I have been. And I'm really hoping to bring you more about Disneyland Paris. If anybody has a heads up, if anybody has seen photos or anything that you want to send to me, that'd be great, because I actually had quite a bit of trouble finding really relevant stuff as far as Disneyland Paris weddings. I had sort of a weird collection of blurry pictures and the occasional inappropriate French Disney wedding photo. So yeah, I wasn't doing too well. To be honest, though, it was another one of those weeks where I just had less time than I thought I would. I think that's becoming a trend. I think I'm going to sort of stop trying to like make myself do tons and tons and tons of posts. I think I'm going to slow down a little bit and focus on some more quality posts, because I did feel like I was kind of throwing stuff up for part of the week this week, and I don't like that very much. So sorry about that, but I hope that you enjoyed International Week, 'cause I had a lot of fun doing it. You know, it's interesting because Kyle and I are such huge Disney fans, but we haven't been to any of the international Disney parks other than Disneyland Paris. And we've only been to Disneyland Paris once, and it was a short trip. We were there for 2 days. Well, 2.5, I guess, if you count the day that we got there. And it's, I have to say, not to offend anybody, not that I don't think this would offend anybody, but we didn't have a really great impression of Disneyland Paris when we were there. At the time, I was studying law at Oxford University, and Kyle had moved to London, and so he could be close to me, so he was just working as a wine tour guide. And we took the weekend off and went down to Disneyland Paris, and there was just a lot of things that happened. Some of it was our fault, some of it was bad interactions that we had with other guests, and some of it was just, you know, frustrations, things like the language barrier, the stupid American tourist stuff, I guess, that you would think would happen when you just pop over to France. But it was interesting because I think that because of that experience, I didn't consider going to one of the other international Disney parks for our honeymoon. I think it's part of the reason that we ended up back at Walt Disney World. I knew that if we went to Walt Disney World, I was comfortable with that park. I knew it well. I knew that we'd have a good time. And although I really want to go to the international Disney parks, and I would really like to go back to Disneyland Paris, I think that I wanted a sure thing, whereas with the Disneyland Paris thing, or any of the other international Disney parks, you know, sometimes I don't travel well, sometimes things happen. I didn't want to have our honeymoon be a trip where we were sort of like having to work that hard to have a good time, if that makes sense. And that's just a totally personal preference. I mean, a lot of people travel much better than I do and are much more adventurous, and a lot of people speak French, which would have been really helpful. But yeah, and that was, honestly, I think if we hadn't had that Disneyland Paris experience, I think I would have felt differently about it. I think I would have been more inclined to go somewhere that was more exotic. You know, for some people, exotic is Fiji. For us, exotic would have been Tokyo Disney. But I wanted to play it safe for the honeymoon. So that might be something to think about if you were trying to pick where you wanted to go on your honeymoon and you were considering an international Disney park. Lots of people do the international thing, the international Disney parks for their honeymoon, and they have a great time. So this is just my 2 cents. Don't think that you should definitely not do that if that's what you really want to do. It's just that we had some issues, and we look back on that trip now with a sense of humor because so many things happened that just weren't great and probably wouldn't have happened in like at Walt Disney World. And like I said, a lot of it was not anybody else's fault but our own. It was just sort of how things played out. But I think that if it had been our honeymoon, we would have really felt pressure to have this perfect trip, and I would have been more frustrated with all the little things that went wrong on that trip, instead of being able to just say, this was a funny, if slightly crappy experience. Yeah, so that's just something to think about. I did get a lot of email this week. I got a lot of messages this week and last week when I announced that I was going to do International Week. And a lot of it was from international brides and grooms who were sort of offering up their weddings or offering up different bits of information. And unfortunately, just because of the way the week panned out and how I had to sort of organize the post, there's a lot of stuff that I didn't get to, especially from a ton of people who were living in the UK. So much that I actually thought that we might just want to have a UK focused wedding week at some point. I don't know if I'm going to do that just because most of the brides in the UK are still coming over to Florida or Disneyland for their weddings, but I just wanted to let you guys know, if you're watching the video and you emailed me and I didn't get around to posting whatever you sent me, that I do have it, and it'll probably show up on the blog at some point. So I'm sorry about that, but thank you for being patient with me. Sometimes it just doesn't fit in my week, so... All right, well, I think that that's it. I do have a song for you this week. I was trying to stick with the whole international theme, so the song I picked is one song from Snow White. I was actually going to pick another Cinderella song, and then I realized that so far my music sharing has been completely Cinderella heavy because I'm a huge fan of that movie. So I went for a little Snow White, but the thing that makes the song international, not surprisingly, is that this version is in French, so I will share a little clip of that. I'll put the full version on a different YouTube video so you can hear it if you're interested in previewing it. It's kind of interesting. I feel like if you were really worried about using a Disney song and having that seem too childish, for some reason I feel like if it was in French, that kind of, I don't know, makes it a little classier. Also, if you had a Disney song that you really loved but the words are inappropriate, you could put it in French and then just hope that nobody really thought about it, and it could just be pretty and French and random. So just a thought. Yeah, other than that, thanks for reading. I hope you guys have a good week, and I will see you on Friday.